Welcome everyone, Costine here with a discussion about Babylon in a total war Pharaoh dynasties. Adad Shuma Usur, the protector of Babylon. In terms of native units, he has a combination of light charge infantry, light archers available early on. Then we have more medium infantry in terms of Akkadian units basically, and also Akkadian horsemen. So two-handed spear riders, light cavalry over here, decent amount of lethality. Bonus versus large. Bonus versus large is an anti-cav benefit. That's the way you should look at it. 31 charge, which is actually a pretty decent amount of charge, though the Akkadian farmers apparently have more charge bonus than cavalry. So keep in mind, this is very, very early cavalry. And in fact, it's not quite historically accurate. Basically, cavalry started being used like hundreds of years after this, based on what we know. And then some heavy infantry in terms of Akkadian warriors at tier 3 with Kopesh and shield. Okay, Kopesh all the way in Babylon. Don't recall that particular part of history, but then again, I haven't necessarily studied the Bronze Age quite as much. In terms of unique faction units, we have Siluhu spears, or Siluhu sword spears, basically all these kind of units. So a combination of light, medium, infantry over here, more focused on the durability aspect as opposed to the damage dealing aspect. So it's medium infantry. It's not heavy infantry that he has access to, which can be a bit of an issue in battles. Though I find that lethality is certainly changing a couple of things around over here with the way that units do work. And we don't have cavalry as faction units, unlike, say, Assyria over here, who do have horse archers. Yeah, apparently horse archers are pretty broken. In terms of unique buildings, you get the Palace of Pleasures, so happiness, replenishment, influence, workforce growth, but also an administration burden in the region. So you get a bunch of administration burden buildings, but on the flip side, you get various benefits, so it may very well be worth it, especially like the Royal Scribal Archives, which give you legitimacy. And quite crucially, you get foreign envoys residence, which gives you gold. That could be potentially very, very useful, though it's not necessarily telling me what kind of tier this building is. Now, looking at the situation in terms of his commands, so you can gain additional recruitment slots for a few turns at the cost of reduced workforce growth for the same duration. Whether or not you want to use that, up to you. And the passive effect, the one that takes a couple of turns to wind up, you'll gain several random units in special recruitment every few turns, which you can recruit globally. That can be pretty useful. And you start as the king of Babylon. And then on top of that, you do have several ancient legacies, though they do recommend you go for the lawmaker with this one. And you worship Marduk. Okay, so let's go into the game and take a look at the situation. So in the campaign, we can take a look at several other things. We can see that the command gives you 2 recruitment slots at the cost of minus 15% workforce in your provinces. And if you decide not to use it, you do get divine cults, which give you a selection of units, a random unit. So it can be either a tier 3 unit or a tier 1 unit, all kinds of things available. You do start with some special recruitment over here with the Babylonian specialists. That's because you start as the king of Babylon. And it's interesting to consider the power of the crown over here that you're dealing with in Mesopotamia. So if we take a look at the court, the way the Mesopotamian court is organized, you have King of the Universe and the various kings of Assur, Babylon, Elam, and whatever that is. Can't pronounce it, need to figure it out. Regardless, you start with lower cost on religious buildings, elite units, Babylonian specialists, and more favor with worshipped deities, specifically with Marduk. You also gain 25 legitimacy for the position you have. the king of the universe gains 30 legitimacy, and all the others, like the ones here at towards the top, are 25. The ones at the bottom are 20. Now we can see over here what kind of benefits you have. So you have Assur horse masters over here for the king of the Assur. You have various plots if you're the king of the universe. You get chariots for this one. And finally, you get Elamite royal chargers. So if you want to get good cavalry, really good cavalry, you're going to want to go with those royal chargers. Of course, you can always ask for elite warriors, though keep in mind you will need to get some regard over here. There are 2 armies in your nearby vicinity. My recommendation for this would be to probably spend all of your initial gold just to deal with these armies, because you do start a war with the faction over here with the Balassi to the north. Destroy their armies and don't go after them, because you start with the province of Babylon, which is a single tier 4 city over here. So its potential may end up being limited, though obviously it has some very significant benefits with the dwelling of Marduk, so favor, food, and workforce growth in this province, as well as the public gardens, mud baths, and into the palace of the pleasure, so replenishment, influence, workforce growth. There's a lot of workforce growth that is available over here. You also have both wood and food that you can produce over here, and you start with a tier 2 native barracks, muster field. You only start with 1 unit recruitment. One of the things worth pointing out about Pharaoh is that you don't have any kind of inherent recruitment in provinces. Now, your initial objective really should probably be to take the south. If we look at a map over here, it's probably a good idea to take control over this entire territory, specifically Elam, northern Elam province, and then worry about Assyria. Now, Assyria is going to be a bit of an issue, because you can see over here that they do start with a good amount of territorial control. They do start with 2 armies, so 11 units over there, and they also have a tier 4 capital. And yes, our main rival is going to be over here. So the Assyrians are right there. One of the problems is gold. Now, gold is very, very important, but we can see here there is a gold mine over here. That's going to certainly take a bit of doing, and then there's another one over there. So getting things like bronze, gold, and stone is important. Wood, not necessarily so much. Oh, there's actually a gold mine here. So you might actually be incentivized, yes. Unite, take control of this entire province, fight that war over here, and then go for this one province, and then go over there into Elam to gain access to all of that, all of those good resources. You're in a fairly safe position by the looks of it. Now, royal decree-wise, you do start with administrative efficiency, so workforce cost for management and administration buildings is going to be reduced by 1 faction-wide. I would probably recommend going for preparation against reprisal for the god dedication slot, just to get another god from as early on as you possibly can, because you start with 1, but the one you start is not necessarily going to be the most useful one. You do have a happiness and a food benefit over here. For this one, for prayer you get replenishment and food upkeep, and devoted generals chance to die of old age, okay, minus 50%. Though you can't prevent dying from old age unless you make faction leaders immune, and I'm not sure that actually does. And immune to attrition, that's actually quite very significant. But if we look at the Mesopotamian gods, so you start with Marduk, but you also have Ashur, who gives you siege benefits, melee defense, all that. I would say the one that you probably want to get your hands on might be Ishtar, because it gives you them minus 40% construction costs for management and administration, could be useful. Or Shrines minus 60% upkeep for armies in region. Or you can go with recruitment rank. But I think, like, just in general, reducing construction costs is useful because also you get workforce growth over there. It might not be the food benefit, but that happiness benefit can be useful. Though rebellions aren't too big of a problem in Pharaoh, regardless of the settings that you use. I mean, to be honest, you could just enable other gods and go for, Zeus, for instance. Regardless, yeah, this one benefit could be useful. It also would give you quite a few children as well, because, yes, that is pretty damn powerful to actually have. I'm surprised that Zeus doesn't necessarily have that benefit, considering the shit he's up to in mythology, but all the same. You also have, various gods over there. Okay. For the Hittites, Egyptians, Canaans.
Let it be.
Your starting army does consist of Babylonian chariots, one slinger unit, several melee units, not durable enough, but not necessarily the best in the world. But certainly the levies, and the armored swords will get the job done. So I wouldn't be too worried about these two armies to deal with, though I find it weird that Creative Assembly CA Sophia decided, oh, you may fight 2 battles on your first turn, or even 3 potentially, dependent on how you play it out. You also start with a monument, or basically a landmark, if you will. So you get 10% movement on land for armies in province, legitimacy +5, and you can still gain the legitimacy building over here. You also have the Shrine of Marduk, so that happiness benefit that you do have over there probably makes sense to, worship Marduk in Babylon, all things considered, especially considering you have the Grand Temple of Marduk available as well. State of collapse, yeah, it's not necessarily in the best position over there. Replenishment situation, right, as we have it. Now, in terms of ancient legacies, the one that the game would recommend you go for is the Lawmaker. So let's take a look at what it does. Create laws by combining various effects for your kingdom or army. Enforcing lands, okay, additional Kuduru can be gained by completing certain ambitions or special court. Okay, so let's take a look at what this one offers. Press to create the law. Okay, create laws that affect income, cost, provincial management. Okay, let's go with that. So we got various benefits that we can go for. We can, during prosperity, we can affect that kind of effect from buildings. And we can also increase category rank. So you need to increase category rank. There's a lot of things that are going to be locked off from the very beginning. But you get things like increasing resource income, various resource income. So, either food or stone or any of that if you want to. So from buildings, let's say, I want to increase food and stone. Can't do wood at the moment. And you also have recruitment cost or happiness. Let's say we go with that. Let's say we go with slingers. And you have a certain cost over there. So the law, or a certain duration that it will take. Okay. Then yeah, royal decrees, interestingly enough, tied to a royal decree. So it takes several turns to get that kind of benefit over there, as we can see about it. That is the legacy that you probably may want to pursue. So you're an economic powerhouse, which makes sense for Babylon. Of course, you can go with other, you can also go with other ancient legacies if you want to, with respect to that. You can even unlock boosting effect and gaining can't be revoked. Okay, so you can also use divine laws if you want to. It seems like an interesting system, so I might just decide to play a campaign as Babylon next up. Anyway, that is all to show for the moment. Ross just to talk about the situation over here. So the So if we look over here, you get, you know, light infantry early on from your regular barracks. You only get farmers, Akkadian farmers, from the native barracks. So you may actually be incentivized to try and get this as quickly as possible to as high of a rank as possible. If we look over here from the Canal Gang's quarters, you get armored spears and swords if you want to go for that. And then, you know, high tier, you get things like the Babylonian Royal Guard. So medium infantry, as I said, more on the medium side of things as opposed to the heavy side of things. Medium works. Heavy infantry used to dominate, but now it just kind of feels like you can certainly work with lighter infantry, but just keep in mind, it depends on what you're fighting, right? The kind of context you're dealing with. That is all I had to say. Costin signing.